come on here. So I'll call to order, Attorney Joe's, was intended to be here and had a medical emergency in the family, so she will not make it tonight. But we'll try to get through things as fast as we can here. A couple of topics I think are gonna take a few moments. Approval of the agenda, or confirmation of appropriate meeting notices.
Yes.
On the agenda,
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Second.
motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On the minutes from November 16th, I was absent.
I'll move approval of the November 16th minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'll abstain since I wasn't here. Motion carries. Any public participation on items not otherwise on the agenda? Anything else? If not, we'll move forward. Item 5A is old business, discussion possible action regarding the status of the ambulance on order. Because we won't meet a whole lot in the future, I just wanted to give an update to the commission and all. Our latest understanding is, we ordered the new ambulance and Edgerton also ordered one. They've been informed that there's not to expect theirs before May. Have we heard anything?
We're on the same timeline. May
Okay.
20th was the date that we've given.
Okay. That's really all I have on that, unless you do, Chief. Anything else?
The only other thing I have on that was just, again, just to reiterate that we did get that flex grant. We have approximately $106,000 coming our way in the next day or two. So that will be put towards the ambulance.
I was under the impression that half of those funds have already been distributed to the city, and that the other half would be after we've paid in full, we get the other half, but that's an assumption on my part.
To my knowledge, that all comes at once, and that was for the FAP grant. As far as that was approximately $25,000 for the entire thing. That part of it, we did get half. Once we use that, we submit the appropriate paperwork for that we did spend that amount, and then we get the second half. So there are two different grants.
Okay, thank you. So then, just to clarify for everybody, the total approximate amount of each grant that was awarded?
Again, the flex grant for the ambulance was approximately $106,000, and the approximate number for the other grant was approximately, I think, 24 and a half, I believe.
And what was the purpose of the 24 grant?
That goes towards EMS training and equipment, things of that nature, but EMS based though.
Okay, thank you, Chief. If there's nothing else, we'll move on. 5B, discussion possible action regarding the listed department assets and itemized appraised values. So Chief, I understand that we've got a full itemized list as best we could do, and that Jefferson has agreed to help with assessing values.
To my knowledge, yes. Chief Pickering told me that he did have a company that was going to go ahead and do that.
So we did have a meeting at official level with the city and the mayor and whatnot, and we discussed the third-party appraisal service, and so Jefferson has agreed to do that for us.
The company, actually, right? It's not the Jefferson Fire Department, it's.
I believe Jefferson Fire and Safety, is a
Jefferson Fire and
third-party
Safety.
company, yes.
Okay. So, just to be clear for me, because I wasn't here last month, but we believe that the inventory list is complete for the appraised values to be done.
I believe so.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then to 5C, discussion possible action regarding the 2023 township contracts, Lima, Johnstown, Kashina, Harmony. I understand that those contracts were approved last month. I just want to confirm that they were sent out, and has there been any response by those towns?
They have been sent out and no response at this time.
Okay. How long do you suppose that they've had them in hand?
Since the day after the meeting last month.
Okay, all right. Tim? That's what I've heard from a couple of municipalities, that they haven't recognized that they've been sent.
Did they go to your chairperson?
So I am concerned that they, for whatever reason, they might not have them in hand.
I will check my email.
But I have heard that, they may not have them. So let's resend them, please.
Yes.
Moving on then, 5D, discussion possible action regarding the future construction of fire stations. I just put this in here for an update again, because we're on a short timetable here, and just to have people understand, where we are currently. We're beginning, discussions again with Five Bugles. They're putting together a, proposed outline for a timeline of, again, what to proceed with. And a lot of that will be at the municipal level, not with the commission, but I wanted everybody to understand, with the staff and everybody, that, we're taking the next steps with all of those things that we anticipated, beginning that with Five Bugles. So the process there will be to review the facility needs designs, at some point in the very near future, and then to confirm and commit at the municipal body levels, likely moving on with final engineering, initiating that, and commitments to fund the final engineering. So all of that is being begun to be addressed. If there's nothing further, we'll move on then on the agenda. Yes, yes.
I don't know if this is on. They did go out, and I did get one response from Kashkanan that said that this would be on their December board meeting agenda. Right here, 11/17 at 11:03 a.m.
Can we please send out another email with the proposed contracts attached, and ask if if they've addressed it or intend to address the contracts?
Yes.
Just kind of, flag out there for everybody. Thank you. Item 5E then, if we're ready for that. Discussion possible action regarding the update of the Edgerton Fire Protection District transition status. Again, here, I know that Edgerton staff has been in contact with our staff, for a few different reasons or topics. Can you help us, Chief, with understanding where we're at with the recent discussions?
As of lately, the paperwork went out for all of our staff members to fill out if they would like to move forward with this whole transition. I know that is happening, as we speak. As far as the exact count of our people, I don't have that number, but I know there are people that are going to be moving forward with our department. I know that for the most part, we've completed an organizational chart, and positions are being filled, so we're moving forward.
So just so everybody does understand, the Edgerton Fire Protection District Board had approved a modifying their hiring policy to specifically address the transition, if there's interest of our staff. So they've been solicited and requested to express interest in that in writing. Is there any questions about what that means, or any other comments on where we're at with transition stuff? Chief, anything else?
I'm glad to hear of this and thankful for all of the work that's gone into it. Would this be a time that we would want to open it up to the floor at all, or just because we are a cohesive unit, or?
Well, absolutely. If there's any of the staff that would like to have input or questions about this process, expressing interest in being part of that expanded district. Yes, Chris? Yeah, please.
Just some input. Basically, I think that Edgerton and the fire chief over there have done a good job as far as modifying some things, making it a little easier. The reapplying was a thing that had a lot of people worried and concerned. Still some worry and concern, but they kind of modified that so that wasn't the case. It was just more or less releasing our personnel files and signing the waiver for a background check. So they did try to simplify it. So I'll give them credit for that. I think that's helped out with the whole process.
And that required the current district members to authorize modifying their hiring policy. So that happened, I was at their monthly board meeting earlier this month in December, where they did authorize modifying their hiring policy, and it was specifically focused at addressing these concerns. And they received that well. Those current board members and the discussion, it was received well.
Do people understand who to contact and anything if they have questions?
Yeah, I feel like they do. They obviously know that they can ask any of us, and that they can reach out to Chief Pickering as well. Him and his other chief officers have been, stopping by the station, trying to get to know everyone and reaching out and trying to answer questions as the best they can.
I mean, I know that obviously that was all of our issues before, and we all had problems with them. But okay, if that's all set up, then
If there's nothing more, we'll move on in the agenda. Item 5F, old business, discussion possible action regarding the Union Local 580 contract. Attorney Joes was going to be here tonight, but she had a medical emergency just in the last hour here. And I understand that they set up a meeting, the union rep, Jason, and evidently that never happened. I was notified that they had scheduled to get together, and her statement today was that that has not happened.
Yeah, I just learned of that too. I didn't know it didn't happen either till just now.
I was quite frankly under the assumption that did take place some time ago.
yeah, I thought it would be right away.
Well, they had to figure out a schedule. Jason and Brooke were messaging back and forth for a couple of weeks trying to get a date put together, and then they mutually agreed on a day, actually. And then I hadn't heard anything since then, and unfortunately they have not spoken, and I'm not sure what happened or why. I apologize.
Chief Lucas has.
Yes, Chris.
I had a conversation with Jason Baskin and Brooke Hanson.
Really?
Thank you.
I apologize for that. I was not notified of that. She kept me in the loop, and for a couple of weeks, there was 3 to 5 emails back and forth where they were trying to schedule something, and I was out of the loop once they scheduled something, so. Okay. Yeah, cause if I was aware of that, I would have gotten directly involved. But it appeared like they were communicating. I apologize.
So
for
taking that a step further, Chair, are you going to reach out to her to clarify why they didn't meet?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then talk about maybe financial aspects of
So-
where we're at with that.
Jenny got a notice here just an hour ago that she was not gonna be able to make it because of the medical emergency. Unfortunately, I wasn't even copied on that. So, Jenny, if you. I just checked it, when you handed this to me, and she had not emailed me anything.
He was sending stuff up to 5:30 tonight, so, you know.
If you could please forward what you received from Brooke, an hour ago, and then I will then forward a message to Brooke and.
Jenny, are we, when we get charged from Brooke, is it based on phone call, hour time?
Phone calls, I believe emails, anytime that she spends on this, she bills us out. It's an itemized bill for, like, she has the date, the times, and who she had spoken to, and a short explanation of what the conversation was.
So, cause we're still gonna need to know if we're gonna have a balance.
Right, I think the last bill
Yeah, that just signed up on that.
a couple weeks ago, which was like a small bill that she had talked to somebody about, but I have not received anything. So,
With the lack of further communication, is there something more you'd like to discuss about this draft contract? Last we met 2 months ago. Jason expressed an interest and asked permission to talk to our attorney, and commission authorized that. Up to that point, we had discussed and had input on what was the current draft at that time, so is there anything else you'd like to discuss here today?
I guess I would like to know where you all want to go from here as far as this union contract goes, because obviously, there's timing issues there. So I'm kind of curious as to what are your thoughts from this point? You guys can come up to, I promise we won't bite you. Just come up to the podium and speak your mind.
I think you guys drug your feet long enough that nothing's going to come of this anyway. So you might as well just drop it. Thank you.
Anybody else? So in response to that statement, I feel like it hasn't been an expedient process, but we haven't dragged our feet. We've provided input twice on the draft in prior months, and it was written statements that we provided. So there has been attention paid to it. Anybody else? If not, we'll move forward then. Bringing us to new business. Discussion and possible action regarding the renaming of the expanded district. So I understand all of the Milton staff and members, as well as the Edgerton staff and members, have been made aware of a survey that's out there, looking for input on changing or renaming an expanded district to something other than Milton or Edgerton. Has there been some response? They were asking for a January 8th deadline to provide input on that.
Yeah, to my knowledge, almost everyone got that email or got that survey. I know people are filling it out. As far as, I think we still have a few more, waiting for a few more responses, and then, whatever number of names are out there, they'll, put it down to like 5 or 6, and then, it'll go out to the district board members and vote on what they think is the best one. That's, to my knowledge, that's how it's gonna work.
Yeah, and to my understanding, and I'll admit that I have not done the survey yet, that any renaming won't happen until, all our municipalities are members as well. So we will all participate in that decision, what that potentially renaming may be.
Essentially, the survey just says, what do you want to call it?
That's correct. Yep.
A pretty
That's
simple
correct.
survey, so
Right.
it doesn't take too long.
Right. And I think the main point of that was trying to, help with morale, make people think that they're gonna be a part of this thing, so,
And quite frankly, behind the scenes for almost a year and a half, from time to time, it's been brought up. Would it make sense to rename the district? It wasn't worthy of a lot of attention unless we knew that it was gonna happen, and the 10 municipal intergovernmental agreement, became committed to. And I'll say this, that the small amount of discussion that has taken place at the Edgerton board level, they've been receptive to, let's consider this, let's find out if there's something that makes more sense, and yes, morale did boost a lot of the interest in that, but even from the Edgerton side, they've been curious about what would make sense in renaming the district. And I think they're looking for something very generic.
yeah, make it easy.
Well, yeah, a lot of people can't spell Koshkanon, and I don't think, it's unlikely that there'd be an appetite for calling it the Milton Edgerton Department.
Right.
Because down the road, there may be members added or taken out, I never know.
Right.
So I think they're looking for something generic.
Right.
That is easy for 911 and everybody.
Right. We're also in the process of looking at, new numbers for all the vehicles, so we're not using Edgerton's numbers or Milton's numbers, we're trying to keep it fair across the board, so.
Yeah.
Did you determine the paint color? It seems to me that was brought up at one of our meetings as to which color red we were going with.
The last time I was told, I was told that everyone likes our current paint scheme, so we'll see if that stays.
It's kind of a darker red.
Yeah, with the, black over red.
Yeah, I think ours looks nice.
That's all I had on 6A, unless somebody has any other input on that. Anybody? I encourage anybody and everybody to fill out that question on the survey. This brings us to item 6B, discussion possible action regarding the recent retirement status. So, I've received 3 written, retirement letters. Chief Parker, Chief Lucas, Chief Maury. I haven't heard anything, else.
I've had that discussion with the other battalion chief, and I'm not sure if he's gonna turn one in, just making you all aware of that.
So for the minutes, Chief Parker, his letter of retiring, is dated December 1st for a notice of retirement of January 1st, 2023. Letter from Chris Lucas. Well, the letter itself is dated October 13th. I received it the 12th of this month. Again, for a retirement date of January 1st, 2023. And then Pete Morey, a letter dated September 1st. Again, that didn't receive until just recently. And again, retirement effective January 1st, 2023. I think it would be appropriate to consider not only recognizing those retirements, but accepting those letters. For several reasons in my mind, you should consider that.
I would move that we accept the letters of resignation and thank all of those involved for the many years of service to the fire district, or fire department.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, discussion. Again, I'm sad to see that, this approach was taken. I understand, some of the rationale behind it, and I appreciate that rationale. We always we've had a lot of lifetime members that we have been all good members, and we don't want to kind of experience this right at this time, but we've got some strategies in mind for making sure the public is served. Working on that. Anybody else?
I'm just gonna say that, I think that, everyone in the community is gonna miss the people that have retired, but I think that they're also gonna be probably happy to see that some of you are actually still gonna be here, because you're all important to the people in this community, and that's why they elect us, so that we can make sure that we give you what you need and that we have done throughout the years. And, I know in my duration of the time that I have been on the fire commission, not only have I worked with a lot of very, very well-trained professional fire and EMS people, you also showed up at my house, which I hope doesn't happen anymore, but I was certainly glad that you were there, and the service was exceptional. You saved my mother's life. I've told you that. And there's a lot of other people out in the community that have the same type of a story, and I don't ever want anybody in this department to think that you were not appreciated, because you always have been.
Ditto.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I think everybody understands the opportunities that still do exist. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for making a record of that. We're at 6C. Discussion possible action regarding authorization for individual personnel files to be shared with the Edgerton Fire Protection District. So the modified hiring policy that Edgerton District has been put in place includes the process or request or need to share the personnel file for any employee that expresses interest in pursuing the expanded district and serving with it. But I think it's important, I want to make two strong points. Personnel files being shared outside of our office in my mind, clearly requires the authorization of the commission to share those files. So I think as a formality, there should be a record that we authorize sharing specifically personnel files that an employee requests be shared. So they will not be shared unless the employee authorizes their file to be shared.
I would like to make that motion, Brian.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Jenny, do you understand the motion?
Yes, thank you.
Any further discussion on that motion? The authorizing sharing a file, when requested by the employee. All in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think it's also important to make a record, it should be obvious, but any employee that does not authorize their file being shared outside the office should not, under any circumstances, be done. So whoever's file, in the first place, it would be not necessary. If they're not interested in being part of the expanded district, there's no reason for that file to be shared. But it would certainly be unfair and probably unlawful to share that file outside the office. And I think the commission, I would recommend take a position on that and make a record that any unauthorized sharing of a file is not permitted. I don't know how else to word that, but I'd like to see that be a record.
All personnel or just
Any personnel,
those that are not requesting to take their,
any personnel file that is not requested by the employee to be shared will not be shared under any circumstances. Maybe there's a better way to put that.
okay, I'll make a motion that this commission not share personnel records outside of the district employees, the newly employed district employees. Oh, I just like messed that all up, didn't I? All right,
Well,
let
the
me start
intent is to
over
protect
again.
their file.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that any personnel files that are left in the possession of this commission not be shared. Only unless otherwise requested, and if they are not to be shared or has not been requested, that they should be stored in a secure location. Is that okay?
There's a motion. Is there a second?
What do you think?
Sure. I don't know, let's ask Jenny.
Jenny, what did
I'm
I say?
thinking what you have is any unauthorized sharing of the personnel files will not be permitted to be shared and to be stored in a secure location.
Will not be permitted, period, and to be stored in a secure location.
To be stored in a yes.
Is
Thank you.
there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
So I will also comment, we're beginning discussions on, for an indefinite period, where those files might be stored. And there's some preliminary discussions that maybe the city of Milton, Hall, is where they may be shared. That decision hasn't been made. But we've been discussing that. Where will these files wind up ultimately, so that they can be secure for some period of time? So there's motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion?
I got
I got a question, Brian,
Yeah.
to the chief. Is you shared with Edgerton, is there a lot,
There's a few, yeah.
handful, or
I'm gonna go with maybe 50%.
really?
Well, and there's some old archived files too. There's archived stuff. Yeah,
But I think going to that original question, Chief, is there a concern on the part of Edgerton to receive an employee that is unwilling to share their file? Just as a question.
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, under the revised policy, it's, I guess they wouldn't have to do it this way. They could reapply from scratch if they wanted to, but, the revised hiring policy they would need to share the file.
Okay.
But then we also wanna make sure that any files that are left behind, that we continue to secure those for privacy reasons.
So on the motion that's on the floor, all in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to item 6D. Discussion possible action regarding potential contract service from the Edgerton Fire Protection District during transition, likely the month of January 2023, and including a command staff contract. So let me pull this out here. Yeah, on the 21st was some affirmed numbers from
revised numbers.
Randy Pickering. The basic logic is that what we have budgeted for the year of 2023 already, that it would be prorated for that month as that's what would be the compensation for a contract service, which Edgerton would then be managing and providing contract service, which would or could include any staff that had made the transition as well. Chief, if you had a chance to look at this.
I got to look at this about 10 minutes before I came here.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm still
apologize,
learning
I
about
just
it.
got it,
You know what, could we just take like about a 5-minute break and, cause
Digest.
I haven't had a chance to look at this either, cause I wasn't in front of my computer this
absolutely, let's all digest, this
afternoon. Thank you.
proposal and take a 5-minute recess here to do so. 6:39 right now. well, we'll come back in from recess here then to address this proposed contract service for the month of January. So I think that the language is going to be, we're gonna have to be creative with any action that might take place on how we word this. So Chief, I think we're all focused on the December 21st letter from Chief Pickering. And then it refers to the attachment, where the 2023 budget shows the prorated amount of $55,770.41, I believe is the correct number to refer to. So recognizing what the actual proposal is, I think includes this cover letter and the two-page attachment of the budget description.
That's how I'm reading it, I guess.
It also, the letter also suggests that if the concept is authorized by the commission, that a draft MOU would be drawn up and requested a signature for. So I'm not sure how you're comfortable acting on this and in what way. Chief, do you have any more input on this? Yeah.
What was the dollar amount, 55 what?
770.
41 cents. So that's a prorated amount of the budget that's already been adopted. And I don't want-
What is the rental expense for the district? What is the district rent? On page 2 towards the bottom in the contingency fund for 500?
And $100 rental expense.
So the Edgerton district, the $2,400 portion of that is the Edgerton side of that, I believe. They did describe what that rental is within the district, but evidently they're proposing our share of that rent would be $100.
Right, what is it that they rent though?
Did
They
it have
rent a-
something to do with the water rescue?
They did describe it to me in the past, when we were going through this budgeting process. You gonna take any shots at it, Chris? And so in the Edgerton district, they do rent something. I don't think it's the headquarters building. I think they own that. There is some rented service though, or I don't think it's rented equipment. It might be.
I know that they have a boat slip in Newville, so I wonder if that's it. If it's for water rescue equipment, I don't know what else it would be for, if it's not that.
It's an expense that the Edgerton district historically does. But they're showing that we would incur $100 of that 2,400. And before, I don't want to forget either that the Edgerton district is explicitly requesting that this commission authorize Chief Parker to be authorized to be a signature be a signer in the month of January. Obviously, that makes the assumption that Jeremy would be a member of that staff in Edgerton.
But act as a signatory on behalf of
Of
the Milton-Milton Township.
this district. I think they're just trying to cross some legal Ts.
I think I'm ready to try a motion.
Okay,
All right, I'm gonna try this motion, and that would be to approve the January 2023 services to be utilized as outlined in the attached memo, which I would reference,
and yeah, dated December 21st.
dated December 5th, 21st, to include the designation of Chief Parker as the signatory, authorized signatory chief.
I would second that.
Motion and a second. Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that? Chief, any input on what the intent is, or whether we've accomplished it or not?
I think you accomplished it, so.
So we'll still anticipate, a formal, memorandum of understanding to be drafted, which they will be requesting signature on.
Do you want me to, did you wanna include the limit of 55,770.41 in my motion for January expenses?
That would be fine, but the letter actually states that.
Okay.
So you've referred to the letter,
All right,
but, it might actually be nice to be documented as well in the minutes. So they don't have to find this letter to minutes. It'd be nice to be in the minutes, I guess. So your motion intended to include
this document.
the total dollar amount of $55,770.41?
The second finds that,
Okay,
okay.
all right. Any further discussion on that?
No.
All right, then all in favor of the motion, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carried. I think, we probably should also make it clear for the record, how do you want to authorize or act on a future draft MOU? Obviously, we want it to be consistent with this information, but how do you want to, because we're probably not gonna ask Jeremy to sign the MOU.
Right.
It would be the commission that needs to sign the MOU.
Do you want to have one or the other of our attorneys pull this out and take care of this, or would you prefer to try Brooke again?
Can we authorize Brian to sign it?
That was what I was thinking as well, Beth,
I don't,
that
That
we
might be fine,
authorize the,
but having an attorney give it the once over to make sure that to verify that it's consistent with this.
consistent with the memo, with the letter, yeah.
So a motion would be in order then to authorize signature,
I would move that we authorize the chair to sign the memorandum of understanding upon review by council regarding the
consistency.
the consistency with the letter of December 21st.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I think this is important for Edgerton to see as well, because they've asked, if this is authorized, we'll move forward with this MOU language.
Hey, can we also add to it though, as, if, Brooke can't get to it right away, that we could then move down to either Mark or,
I think what I'll do is I'll forward all of this to all three attorneys.
okay. that'd be fine.
And they do communicate with each other, and typically they
I
say, well,
mentioned
you make the
council,
response.
I tried to make it general, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'd be concerned if we couldn't get it back from
Right.
Brooke in time.
So that would be my intention, is I'll forward this along with the statement that, says, well, maybe we'll wait until the MOU draft language comes, but I think as a reminder to myself, I might send it off right away and say, anticipate a draft MOU coming, but that it should be consistent with this.
You're under a short timeline.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
all right. Did we vote on that?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So it would be important that Edgerton understands that we made this action. moving on to 6E, discussion possible action regarding the continuation of the Joint Fire Commission for a period of time. Just as an FYI, been talking with the mayor and Al, and a couple of other individuals, attorneys, for a couple or more reasons, it may be necessary to not totally dissolve on paper at least, the jointly owned department here today, because of, well, for one thing, any grant monies out there, we have to exist to receive the grant monies. I don't know under what terms or what language the ambulance was ordered on, but to take delivery and potentially pay for the ambulance, as well as any other potential future libel issues that may come up from past, or any other legal reasons that we may need to exist on paper. Because I have been asked, and we briefly have discussed, are we ready to dissolve this February 1st? Well, at least through 2023, it's unlikely that this department and this commission would be dissolved. There may not be any duties for this commission after February 1st, unless some receiving an ambulance or approving something there or taking delivery, there's some need for the existence at that time, or some other unknown circumstance that comes up. Potentially, maybe not, but potentially any W-2s that for any earnings that might have occurred in 2023 as a part of this department. The W-2s don't go out till after the end of the year, next year. So there's several reasons why on paper it may need to exist. I just an FYI.
I guess a question, and I understand that. I think perhaps the only issue is making sure that we continue to be insured.
That's another thing that came up,
and
that we would continue
so
insurance.
that there may be a small cost involved in making sure that the actions of the commission are covered by errors and omissions policy, whatever, that kind of thing.
So that did come up.
I think probably we don't have to take action. We're not dissolved unless we formally would take action to dissolve. So I think by not doing anything but pursuing the insurance question to make sure that that's taken care of, that we'd probably be okay. And then call meetings if needed.
So obviously we will intend to meet in January as normal. And I anticipate meeting in February, if only to say, well, this is where we're at and this is what's going to happen or not happen indefinitely. So I anticipate January and February meetings for sure. And then moving forward, we'll decide in February what moving forward looks like for meeting or not meeting.
Okay, so who's gonna proceed with making sure that the commission continues to be insured?
Well, if we do nothing, it exists, right?
Does it just continue?
Oh, absolutely. That's why the conversation even was drawn, was do we dissolve something?
Okay.
And by default, if you don't dissolve it, it's the entity's here. Does it serve anything or have any purpose? That's debatable.
Okay.
So at what point does that become the district and not us? What do you?
I was
for a
talking about
time frame,
Milton.
Just like,
I'm
what
sorry.
kind of a time frame are you thinking about?
Think about this as like an estate. I die, but the estate goes on.
Right.
And essentially, what we've got is the estate of the Milton-Milton Township Fire Department. to take care of the legal matters until they're all settled. At such point that they're all settled, then that is dissolved.
My gut feeling is we probably would meet January, February, and unless something comes up, we probably wouldn't meet until January 2024 and decide, is there any point anymore in this entity? Have we cleared up everything or not?
Brian, as an attorney,
So we've had some preliminary discussions with attorneys on this, and it was basically what we just described right now. That there's likely to be some logical reason to exist on paper because of some covering some insurance and libel issues out, and maybe accounting that might partially occur in 2023.
so the commission, possibly, the estate could live for 7 years.
Who knows?
We don't know. It's,
Yeah, we don't know.
we'll at that point, we'll look at legal advice on what makes sense, later, but.
And the body is probably dormant. I mean, it only comes back to life as an issue presents itself.
Correct.
So for those reasons is why I had this on the agenda, so that everybody was on the same page, and people have asked,
Right.
when are we gonna dissolve, or why would we, so, but, is there anything else you'd like to discuss on 6E? Otherwise, we'll move forward to 6F. Discussion possible action regarding staff benefit payouts for full-time employees. So this is something that the commission will have to figure out and make a decision on. You're gonna have to authorize any benefit payouts that may be due.
I would disagree that it's something we need to make a decision on. It's something that we have to do.
But it's gonna require a decision because it wasn't, budgeted.
It is budgeted because that's how we budgeted. It's part of their benefits package. That's part of our budget.
I don't recall a line item in the budget that addressed any benefit payouts.
You called it.
But regardless, this responsibility, in my mind, probably does lie with the commission authorizing, payouts. But there's been quite a bit of input on where that's at right now. Chief, do you think we're there? Do we understand what the payouts are needed to be?
Yeah, we do have the numbers on that. Kelsey has given us those. That I think the finances are there for that. That's just my opinion. I have a couple of options for us for that. If there's any interest in it, to hear about that.
Yes, I'd like to hear your input on that, Chief.
Okay. Just two of them quick off the top of my head that would take care of it. We did hear a few months ago, the commission approved approximately $22,000 for a full-time staff member to finish out the year. I believe that was 3 or 4 months. Unfortunately, that position did not get filled, so those funds are still hanging out there. We also did have the recent sale of one of our old vehicles. That was approximately $19,500 for a total of $41,500. The approximate payouts for the individuals is $35,332. The payout for the employees is $35,332.
And I believe you sent those numbers over to us earlier today.
So I'm not sure if it makes sense to commit to this payout this month or after this month is expired. Cause these benefits assume end of year, I believe.
I would assume at the end of January. Right.
So I'm not sure what the commission wants to do on a timing or an action of it. I think we all probably realize with this, we need to take care of this. But when and what dollar are you willing to commit to, if today or at a different date? I don't know.
You know, perhaps what we do tonight is commit that the benefit payouts will take place, and defer the actual amount until we know the actual amount, you know, through that January 31st date. You know, the payout would then take place at that time.
Cause those numbers could fluctuate a little bit, with,
Yeah.
you know, accrual of, sick time and, you know, and if they take some time between now and then.
I think what's important is for us to go on record that the benefit payout will take place
I agree.
and that the numbers are going to be consistent with the methodology that's been used to generate that 35,000.
I would agree to that. At the same time, I would say that it would make most sense in my mind that we would have it take place effective the date that they become either an Edgerton employee or at any case, the Milton department ceases to exist as the Milton department. And that potentially is January 1st, based on the fact that we're now gonna have contract services with Edgerton beginning January 1st. But
Yeah, I think
I
most
do
of those-
agree that we need to pass the motion tonight stating that we will pay the benefits out.
I agree.
As a caveat to that, I assume you just don't want to make a blanket approval that it's like, well, we made a mistake in math and turns out to be $70,000, but I think showing the intent and capping it at some reasonable amount, unless that needs to be revisited, like if you were to say, well, if benefit payouts up to $40,000, anything other than that, we'll just revisit the question and authorize where that money's coming from.
What was the total, Jeremy, of those two sources? Perhaps we,
41.5.
you know, perhaps we use the 41.5 as the cap, since we've already identified where those funds could come from.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be valuable to state
That's a good idea.
where those numbers came from. Yes.
How did she arrive at that date?
As,
That amount?
that's what they have currently right now, as far as sick time and
Yeah, it's
vacation
gonna go
time
higher because they will still accrue benefits.
for the month of January, yeah.
Well, I don't know about the month of January because once this MOU goes into effect, it will no longer be the Milton.
It depends on what staff members ultimately
Technically, though,
don't
the
do.
books then would fall under Edgerton though, once this MOU starts.
Right, yeah.
I think it goes through the end of December, but I could be wrong. This would be an accounting thing, not,
I would like to have Kelsey come to our next meeting and go over some of these with all of us.
For the time being, I get the impression the commission does want to at least make a record of committing to paying these payouts. But what language do you want to put with that?
I would move that the commission commit to the payment of payouts as calculated using the methodology used to arrive at the 35,000. Insert the exact number, the 35 whatever, and that for the time being we cap that at the $41,500 that is derived from the unfilled vacant position and the sale of surplus equipment.
Motion and a second. Jenny, were you able to capture that? Yep. And then we also understand that if for some reason those numbers would exceed that, we just revisit that and find out and commit where their dollars come from.
just as a note, I think that it feels messy, but I understand the intent. And I think it's important for all in attendance and hearing this to understand that your benefits did not stop as of the compilation of that number. So if you, because you're still working in December, so understand that we recognize that.
Thank you.
There's still a motion on the floor. What's the anticipated timeline that would be the actual payment would be made?
That would be January. Did you wanna add that?
I think that makes sense. I mean, that's a cliff.
That it would be paid after January 31st, 2023?
Yeah.
Just quick, I would just plan to do it with their final payroll.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that we need to put a date on it.
We don't know when final payroll might be. We don't know if that's gonna be after the end of December or for some reason, somebody's on the payroll in January yet. 1, 2, 10, 20 individuals.
Yeah, but it does make sense. The final, that payout would be made with their final,
Each
payroll.
individual's
Yeah, each
final payroll.
individual, yeah.
Final payroll.
Do you not like that, Chris?
I anticipated there was a chance of that, and hopefully there is. But the point that I think that was trying to be made was, once that payroll period ends for that, and each individual is when we're trying to authorize the payment be made.
Yeah, if somebody were to accept a position with Edgerton and move to it immediately, theirs may come earlier than others who would go through the end of January.
But that's where it gets messy, in my mind. I feel like there needs to be an end date for Milton and a start date for Edgerton. And that's what I thought we accomplished by saying the MOU we passed tonight would accomplish that for the month of January.
Except the payouts aren't to the department, the payouts are to individuals, and their term of employment may end at different periods of time.
I mean, could we somehow base it that, based on the final payroll or a date set by our treasurer? I mean, it may be firmly decided based on Kelly, or Kelsey. Yeah,
She's a professional.
Well, I think she'd be looking
She
for
can do that.
guidance. I think she'd be looking for guidance on what we anticipate to do, whether it be when that individual's payroll is done and like normal, that's what would happen normally, right? As soon as that person's payroll is complete, for whatever reason historically, that
All the,
they got
all
their
the
payout to do.
payout comes at
And I
that
think
time.
the MOU is, I have to look at this some more, but I think it's mainly for administration.
Yeah.
So, not necessarily the line people. So the line people, I believe would be considered Milton employees until January
Right.
31st.
February,
Or, yeah,
January 31st.
January 31st.
So the motion on the floor yet, is there any need to add anything to that motion, or are we good for now?
I think we're
gonna-
good for
We're gonna meet
now.
again in January.
I think we're good for now.
Is there any need to discuss this in January to make sure it's on an agenda? Or we've pretty much got this figured out?
I think in January, that's when I wanna have Kelsey here, so that we can like go over all of the details of where we're at with our
So have
final.
further
numbers.
discussion on the payouts?
well,
in
that, or she
January?
can submit a report. I mean, I would hate to have her come here in the evening just to say 10 words.
Right.
Just further discussion on this, payout thing, but there is a motion on the floor to commit to something.
All right.
Are we ready for the
You wanna
vote?
read the motion back?
It's committing to the payout, the methodology to arrive at the 35,322, as Jeremy did tonight, cap at the 41,500, derived from the unfilled position and the sale of equipment.
But there's only so much equipment that was sold.
Yeah, there
I
was-
mean,
Okay, all right. Okay.
I'll call for the vote then on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Chief's report.
All right, for the month of November, we had 103 calls for service. As far as training goes, we had our monthly EMS refresher. Fire did, what did we have to do? Let's see what that was. Right, I believe so. What's that? Oh, that's right, we did, rural search and rescue. We did a hunter down scenario, and we went out and found them, so it went really well. It was a joint effort. And that's all I have at this time.
Any questions of the chief?
I have some questions on our checkbook. Did we pass that up?
Well, it's usually part of the chief's report, the financials. If there's any need to visit that.
I just have one question about the financials. I know, well, actually, I have two questions. The lighting and repair replacement for Skelly Technologies, what?
That was for the lighting in the station itself. They're getting pretty bad, so we had to get some ballast and new lights put in,
Okay.
for both buildings.
Was any of that LED?
I believe so, yes.
Good, that's great. Okay, and then my other question is, I know Brandon he was promoted like June, I think, when we had our pinning ceremony. Are you Brandon? I am. All right, Brandon. I'm glad you're here, and I wish you would have introduced your little new firefighter. Okay, so anyway, my question is, I know that, like, specifically for Brandon, I know that he was one of those that were pinned, and you have on our checkbook a training book. Is this a training book that everybody will eventually need individually, or is this something that is for everybody that gets into that particular level will have?
That was for a particular class.
Okay,
So, yeah.
all right,
So obviously, if somebody wants to take that class, then they'll have to cover that book. Pay
okay,
for that book.
great. And what was the class?
I believe it was for instructor.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. Well, I didn't mean to point you out, Brandon. I remember the pinning ceremony. We're all proud of those. So, and I
Well,
just
on that-
wanted to make sure that we didn't have, that this was gonna be a rolling, something else coming up maybe further into the month of January where we may have to have this type of an expense. Thank you.
Anything else for the chief? If not, the president's report? Anything?
I believe our president stepped out.
Yeah. Nothing there then? General items? I'm out of curiosity, and not that this is a commission responsibility, but who did the city appoint as a representative to the expanded Edgerton district? An alternate as well?
Anissa and Teresa.
Okay. And
I'll be right behind you, Brian. You
And-
thought you lost me, but.
myself and Beth were appointed by the town,
Okay, good.
so. Tim, who was appointed for Harmony?
Is that pretty much, do you think that's pretty much how it's been with all of the town boards, that they're going with the chair people and?
Well, the likelihood is that it would, because we as chairs and mayors have been to a lot of meetings the last year. Dave? I'm gonna bet a nickel on it that Dave Burkett is the alternate for Lima, but I haven't heard. Although they've had somebody else from their board attend a few meetings too. Any other general items? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.